Good afternoon, everyone. You guys know me. I'm Nancy Ganzikoff for Business Coach, and I am here with my guest today, my copywriter, Masha. How are you, Masha?
Nancy, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. So I'm live twice today, both really important subjects, and I don't think people are giving enough weight to their websites and to the words that get used on your website. And this is a great topic. We talk a lot about authenticity.
Mhm.
And what does that mean? Like being yourself out in the world, right? On your social
Yeah,
media, in your website. But you've got a really unique take on this,
yeah,
on
yeah,
how to put yourself out there authentically. So tell us what you think.
yeah. Well, I do have to start with number one. That's the number one ask when interior designers come to me for their website copy is they want to come across as more authentic in their brand story because maybe they did their website 4 years or 5 years ago and it just was what everybody else was doing and now it just doesn't feel right. It's not really connected to what they do right now, so that's
Yes.
why it's so relevant. And yes, you should be aiming to be authentic in your brand story. And what we're here to talk about today is your past can actually help you do that.
So weaving your
Mhm.
past into your
Yes.
brand story. So as an interior designer, I see so many of them start out their story on their websites, often say like, well, I was a little girl. I used to or a little boy. I used to rearrange my bedroom all the time. I'm like, yeah, but didn't we all do that? Like, so how do we do this?
Yeah. So maybe let's start with what is exactly we're talking about when we say past, because it's not just your past career. It's not just your previous career that you've done before. It could be so many things. It could be your cultural upbringing and the way you grew up, the way you were raised. It could be your life story, what you've gone through, certain experiences that you've gone through, like various social causes. It could be your academic upbringing. It could be so many things. So you shouldn't just think that this is just the previous career. But so that's where we start. It's a lot of different things. That's your past. And what I'm saying is it does belong in your brand story because oftentimes designers say, well, it's irrelevant. When I ask them, because they go through my questionnaire and it starts with like, tell me what brought you here today. What were you doing? What made you you today? And they're like, well, in the past life, this is what I was, this is what I was doing, but it's irrelevant. It is. That's what made you you.
So it is relevant, is
It
what you're
is
saying.
relevant, 100%. But there is a way of weaving it into your story in a way that would resonate with your clients. So today, I guess we're here to talk about, why we should do that and how to do that.
So I'm going to say the reason why you put your past into your story is because
Mhm.
people relate at different points to you, right? It could be high
Exactly.
school friends, college friends, or just a relation to who you were back then, your interests back then, and how
Yeah.
you developed and what. And in my case, my children, like what kinds of children I had and what they're
Yeah.
interested in, like that all matters to who comes to me to work with me because they know that I can relate maybe to a piece of their story.
Exactly. Because not every customer is going to come to you, having worked with an interior designer before, or even knowing much about interior design. So they may connect with different parts of your story, not necessarily work related. It
Yeah.
could be like what you said, something about your kids, something about your life outside of office. So you want to give them those points of connection to relate to.
Okay. So how do we do it?
So how do we do it? So there's a few ways. So first of all, we already established that it is going to make you come across a lot more authentic. It's going to build trust because and people do business with people they trust.
Yeah.
But your story makes you come across more authentic. So there is a few ways to do it. And my favorite way is obviously storytelling. Like it's no secret, but through storytelling. And this is essentially your about page, your bio. You should be creating a narrative about where you've been, how far you've come, what were you doing before, what kind of transferable skills you picked up, because maybe you were like a I don't know, like a nurse in the past, how it relates to today. You're giving people to certain points to relate to. B, you're showing the human behind your brand. And that's why
Yes.
people want to get to know you, not just to see, what kind of interior designer you are and, how you work with people, but who you are deep down.
Yeah, and it makes me think as you're talking, and I don't do this, I don't think, on my website, but it's kind of like, there were years I was a personal trainer, and that helped me learn how to motivate people, right?
Yeah.
So if an interior designer can say, I was years as a marketing director for a firm, and that taught me those whatever those transferable skills that now make them a great designer, let's say.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I raised my children, and that's part of how I got into storage being so important in my design elements. Like anything that's,
Yeah.
and I'm saying it in a boring way, in
Right.
storytelling, you're the expert on the
You have to
boring.
articulate how it is related, but yeah, just like you mentioned, even the fact that you've switched careers, that already shows something. That already shows resilience, how you adapt in your environment, and you're showcasing, what you are as a person to your prospective customers. So definitely tell that story.
Yes, yes. And I think that designers think that, like you said, it's not relevant that they did other things,
It is though.
but it's really telltale as to who they are and what kind of designer they'll be to that person reading it. Like, oh, because of their life experience, because they used to be in the corporate world, or used to be a teacher, or used to be whatever, they're going to be really good at whatever. People make assumptions based
Yeah.
on your past.
Exactly, exactly. And also, as interior designers, interior designers, what they do, it's very similar in the eyes of your customers. I understand that you may think you're so different, but in the eyes of your customers, you all kind of sound the same, look the same, maybe not look the same. I shouldn't say that, but what you do, your process sounds very similar. You all go through getting to know your clients and sending them the questionnaire and really getting to know who they are, how they want to live, how they want to experience their place. You all go through the drawings and the renderings, then you gather the inspo, then goes the procurement of furnishings. It all kind of sounds the same. So when you make it different, when you weave your story into it, you actually tell them, hey, my process may be the same, my process may be similar, but my story, what makes me as part of that brand story, that I bring me to the table, basically. I bring me to the table. And
Right.
that's the differentiator.
Right. And your past.
Yeah.
And travel, if you've done travel and what
Yeah.
that has brought to
Traveling is
you.
a huge one. Yeah, absolutely. So storytelling is one way to do it. On your services page, that's another thing. You just mentioned maybe you were a project manager in the past. This is a critical skill because that's where you show, listen, your project will be flawless from start to finish because I have a decade in project management. But you have to show it, otherwise they wouldn't know about it. That's
Right.
how it's relevant.
Right. And I do, I love everything about this. Like if someone reads, I was a nurse in the past, which I wasn't, but if they're reading that on
Yeah,
somebody's page, they're going to make certain conclusions about that and your personality type. So
exactly.
weaving your past in is really super.
Yeah. And I think my number one favorite way to do that is through design philosophy. I feel like I'm thinking of creating like a whole separate offer just to help interior designers create their design philosophy. Because every time I ask them, so what's your design philosophy? It just like, there's a pause always like, I don't know if I have one. I feel like I have one, but I'm not sure if I have one. You do have one because your past has influenced it. So for example, like if you were, let's go with your example. If you were a nurse in the past, your design philosophy could be focused on creating spaces that nurture your well-being or prioritize health. That's a huge one. That is so
And that's up and
different.
coming in the industry too, that one,
Right?
right? Health
Yeah,
and wellness.
exactly. And it sounds so different than just saying, well, we create beautiful and functional spaces.
Right. I come at it from a health perspective.
Right. And
Right?
that's
When you walk
huge.
into your home, how does it make you really feel? And can you relax here? And can you get your
Yeah.
R&R here? And that perspective is part of your design philosophy. Somebody else who's in the middle of raising a family, their whole design philosophy could be different.
Exactly. Or for example, let's take your other example of traveling, because a lot of interior designers love to travel. They're avid travelers. Your design philosophy could be around traveling. For example, you've had a lot of experience traveling to tiny spaces, and now your design philosophy is all about functionality, building as much functionality into your design, or all about like balance and flow and all those things, because you've had this huge experience and you could explain in your design philosophy why you do what you do today and why it's so important and how your customers can get the value from that.
Yeah, it's all so important to highlight the transferable skills from your life that help you be who you are today for them.
Exactly. Yeah, and it makes it memorable. It makes it into a story. It honestly brings you to the table. It honestly sets you apart because that's you. An interior designer is an interior designer, but this is why. This is what I bring to the table. This is how my past have shaped who I am today. And you created this beautiful design philosophy that now guides all of you. Because that's honestly your backbone of your creative designs and your decision making. And when you showcase that in a special way, it resonates with people because they can clearly see why you're different than any other interior designer.
Yes,
When you
absolutely.
even took the time to create a design philosophy because you were passionate about something. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe you majored in history and you felt particularly strongly about a particular time period, and you can showcase how you now incorporate these various elements from that historic period into today's world and how you make it relevant. That's huge because it's going to resonate with your kind of clients, because at the end of the day, we all want to attract the right kind of client, our kind of people.
Yeah, the kind of people that's easy through your process because they get along with you and they understand the way your brain works, right? So how do you get people to understand the way your brain works? Tell them a story about your past and tell them how those skills have transferred now into a new exciting career, right?
Absolutely.
And it may not be new, it might be long term, but how it created the career you're currently in.
Exactly. And not just a career, but expand your vision. It's not just your previous roles. It's the social causes that you feel strongly about. It's your cultural upbringing. It's your academic focus. It could be so many things. And number one thing, if you want to take away from this live, is just know that it is relevant. And just tell that story of how it is relevant, because at the end of the day, we have to tell that story. Nobody else will connect the dots for us. We have to say, this is my past, this is what makes me today, this is how I bring value, and this is how it is relevant.
Love it. Okay, I love the whole storytelling. I tell a lot of stories when I'm on stage, and storytelling.
They connect,
that's what people remember.
Exactly. That's what people remember. Stats and facts, they're powerful, but at the end of the day, people remember. So there was an example that I used in one of my posts a couple of years ago, and I can't remember what, but when they did an MRI of the brain and you were told a story, different portion of the brain actually lit up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because stories resonate. Stories are more memorable, and we retain information a lot more effectively when there's a story involved. It kind of places us in the middle of the action.
Yes. And this is a good reminder for me also that storytelling is what people they love it. They love it. They love it.
It's more interesting to read. It's more engaging. It connects. It resonates. It's just, I don't know, it sets you apart, because otherwise you're just reading the messaging for in the interior design world, and it all kind of sounds the same. But as soon as there's a story, it almost like makes us pay attention. Like, oh, this is different.
Yes, a way of differentiating yourself from everybody else.
100%.
Your story. Okay. Anything else, Masha? Did we miss anything?
This was great. Definitely tell your story. Tell your story in a way that sets your brand apart, because as interior designers, your process may sound and look similar, but it's your past, it's your story that can definitely set you apart.
And how do they find you for what kind of help?
Sure. So I am a messaging strategist and a copywriter for interior designers. You can find me on my website, contentvertical.com, or you can join me on my Instagram as a friend. I am at masha.copywriter, and I share a ton of advice there and tips for messaging, how to make your brand more memorable and to set it apart.
And to help them tell their story.
Yes, exactly.
I love it. Okay. Thank you, Masha.
Thanks so much, Nancy.
All right, everyone, go click the link. Masha can help you tell your story, and you need to tell your story on social media and on your website. Otherwise, you're not going to attract the kind of business that you want, your ideal client. So don't hesitate any longer. If you're struggling with words, grab Masha. She can help. All right, everyone. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Masha.